Welcome, heathens and witches, to the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. I'm John Norgrove. This is Julie Norgrove. We're the hosts of your once weekly-ish mystical magical podcast, whereupon we look into something in the esoteric realm. This is one of the research weeks. Therefore, Julie did a bunch of research for us.
I sure did.
What are we talking about this week?
Well, this was actually voted on by our patrons, and
check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/nerdjack.
Of today, if you did not already see the title or the YouTube card, is shadow work. Yeah. So we're talking about shadow work today. Do you know what shadow work is?
It's sort of like night digging.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Not
it's
at
sort
all.
of it's sort of like moonlight prowling. Is it sort of like where you stand outside of somebody's balcony and then your boy hides behind a bush and is like, "What's up? You should say some stuff." And you're like, "Yo, what's up? I should say some stuff." And then he's like, "You should call her pretty." And you're like, "Yo, you're kind of pretty." You know, you get like a weird back and forth like Three's a Company sort of situation going on there.
Nope, it's not that either.
Yeah?
Nope.
Maybe is it like, I don't know, integrating some sort of parts of yourself that you don't want to admit to, what with because of society normalization or like indoctrinated beliefs in a bunch of bullshit. So some spicy psychology is teaching you that you should like get over that stuff and like bring it into you so that way you like overall improve and live a better and happier life.
Yes.
Okay. Podcast over. Bam.
Done.
No, seriously though. What is shadow work? Explained in a significantly more thought out way than me just absolutely winging that. Every word, I was along for the ride, just like the rest of you guys. Whole time. Yeah.
So essentially, shadow work is reflecting on the darker or shadow parts of ourselves and healing or unifying them.
All right.
This term has been a hot buzzword in the witchy community and also just like the wellness and kind of woo-woo adjacent communities for like a few years now. And there are no shortage of journals and articles and how-tos about it. And everybody's got their own take. And everybody's also very protective over their kind of shadow work. Yeah. So we're going to break it down for you in a way that only we can do here at the Horn and Cauldron podcast.
Because our way's the right way. What's it called? Gatekeep. Look at these gates. Kept.
No.
Right?
No, no gatekeeping here.
Gatekeeping.
But there's a lot of stuff to wade through.
I was going to say gates of Jericho keeping, but those are walls. Those were walls.
Yeah, those are walls. Gates of Moria. That's all I got.
Did Moria have gates? Oh yeah, I think a tree threw another tree through it or something.
No.
Wasn't that where the gates were?
No, no.
A tree throw a rock through it or something?
No.
What are the gates of Moria?
Moria is speak, friend, and enter.
It sounds like more like a door.
I mean, but they call them gates. Yeah.
Hot gates, cold doors. I don't know about these guys.
Anyway.
Don't trust the Morians. Is that what they're called? Morians?
No, they're dwarves.
Oh. No, dwarves
but
are cool,
they did dig too greedily and too deep, so you still gotta watch out for those
I
guys.
recently saw, totally off subject, oh my god, I recently saw a thing about this, and it changed my opinion. They didn't dig too deep or too greedily. That's just tall folk gaslighting that they accidentally found a pocket where a demon was. Or Balrog, third cousin to Gandalf.
I'll give it to you, yes.
Yeah.
So. And that's, it's just...
Yeah, it's just tall people propaganda.
Elven propaganda.
Don't believe, and human. Don't believe the tall people propaganda. They didn't dig too deep.
Yeah, they dug just the right amount. Maybe they were going for a demon.
Yeah, you don't know. Maybe they had good trade agreements. Kids love trade agreements.
Yeah, kids love trade agreements.
Woo! If I learned anything from the prequels, it was that sand is irritating and it gets everywhere, and that kids love trade agreements. Oh, and that grandpas can do a backflip. They're just holding out on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the rest of the plot of those were, but it was definitely
they're just saving up one last backflip. They're like, exactly. I'm all out of... I'm here to do backflips and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, right? No, anywho, okay, so shadow work, let's go.
So there's a lot of stuff to wade through with shadow work. So, there's a lot of questions that people have about shadow work. So first of all, what is it? Do I need to do it? How does this work? What are the best ways to do it? Is it safe? My favorite question.
Oh.
How do I fit it into my practice? So
Never heard anybody ask, is it safe?
I
That's
saw
crazy
this
to me. I mean, I guess like
so
that's not crazy.
much.
I totally understand why you would think it's not safe if you're like very novel to the idea of any form of spicy psychology.
Yeah.
Right? Any zestiness at all. If the spiciest psychology you can handle is ketchup, this ketchup of psychology, then like sure, yeah, shadow work like seems unsafe. But like a part of me is like, but also is that because everybody just knows a little bit of Freddy Krueger knowledge? Right? Is shadow work unsafe because if you die in a dream, you die in real life, and Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street just changed our relationship with dreams? Or is it because people are just like, oh man, I might have to admit to some stuff, and that's going to make me feel sad? Because that doesn't seem unsafe. That just seems like you're going to get sad.
I think it's like a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's a Nightmare on Elm Street sort of situation.
You know, this question may come from people who are like...
I think it's a novelty thing, right?
Yeah,
I think it's like if you're fresh to it, you're just like, oh, you did what? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm like addressing my fears. And they're like, I don't know about that shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, woo. And if people aren't like part of the greater witchy community or part of only part of the love and life part of that community, Shadow is like, ooh, that's bad. But it's not. So
there are definitely some people who are gassing you up about the drama of it.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen several witch talks that are real, like some are just like, shadow, you should do shadow work, it's great, haha, and you're like, yes, that's totally a reasonable statement. And then some are just like, prepare yourself. You need to be in a safe room when you do this. Like you're about ready to turn it, like chain yourself to the bed so you don't turn into a werewolf at midnight kind of stuff or whatever, you know? And you're like, oh, that seems dramatic, but okay.
Much like a lot of things, shadow work is kind of like your mileage may vary kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
Because like everybody sort of has, well, first of all, everybody's shadow side, quote unquote, is like different than the next person's. Even like if you had siblings, for instance, your shadow work is going to be different than their shadow work because you are separate.
Because you're different people.
Right? So like everybody has their own thing that they have to figure out, but also like some people are better able to sort of do the shadow work itself by themselves. Some people need to have somebody there to help them.
Shadow
and
guide.
Yeah, and like, you know, it seems scary, and some people may even have like other sort of contributing mental health factors that would maybe make shadow work be problematic. More problematic, that is, but like I think that anybody can do shadow work. It's just you don't need to do it. But first of all, you don't need to do your shadow work in the same way that somebody else is doing, because your journey is different than theirs, and what works best for you is not going to necessarily work best for somebody else. I think
this might be why there's so much like this is the right way to do shadow work energy, is because a lot of people are like, I did some shadow work and it worked out fantastically.
It's not like
you should listen to me.
Yeah, it's not like
that's fine, but also we're all a hundo pasundo different people.
Yeah.
So like your shit's gonna be different than that person, whoever said person is.
It's not like tying your shoes where there's only like a couple of ways to get to that end.
Yeah.
There's like an endless number of ways, right?
Totally.
It's like trying to get to the other point of like a circle, right? You have a ton of different ways for you to do that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's that shadow work isn't necessarily about negative aspect stuff, but like I kind of always think about it in the like fears category, not as like shadow work necessarily or directly connects to any of your internalized fears, although it could, right? But like, you know how like I feel like once every 6 months we get a new fear unlocked, not like inside of ourselves, but where somebody says a word and you're like, what the hell is that? And then you like Google the word and you're like, oh, it's a fear of small brown bags next to larger yellow bags. And you're like, that is monstrously specific, but okay.
But also,
and then there's like a bunch of articles about people who have that fear.
But also just like kinks.
Yeah. It's endless. You know? There's so many. You're always learning about a new one where you're just like, oh.
Well, and I think that
I didn't know that was a thing.
I think that one of my personal pet peeves about the whole shadow work discussion that's been happening in the community for like the last few years makes it sound like you have to do shadow work, and you have to do it in a specific way, and it's going to take a lot out of you, but also like you should constantly be doing shadow work. And I think that that's putting, I think that in general, the shadow work thing is something that is like you're putting this on a pedestal, right?
Totally.
In doing it, in understanding what shadow work is, and especially in doing research for this episode, much like every episode, I can tell you what, folks, anytime I do research on an episode, even if it's something that I know about, I'm just like, oh my god, I'm looking at this in like a totally different way than I would have ever done, right?
Well, you read a book about it.
I think that like we as a people put too much emphasis on doing shadow work. You know, you got to exercise those inner demons, as it were. But here's the thing is, should you do shadow work? Yes. But like it doesn't have to be a constant all the time.
It also doesn't have to be demons. Your shadow work could just be like the weirdly large number of unicorns that are in your house right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't need to deal with the dark side stuff, but like I might have a collecting unicorns problem that needs to be addressed. Or something to that extent.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always need to be like a spooky.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not
I think the word shadow, shadow work gets the same bad rap as, we know who to blame for this, as like black magic.
Yeah.
Right? Where they're like, well, that's black magic. And you're like, yeah, man. But like, we know that shit's just named that because it's like racist and you're gatekeeping. You know, sometimes at least, right?
Typically and classist, but yes.
Yeah, and classist. So like, but like, and shadow work's sort of the same thing where they're just like, you gotta like deal with that deep trauma that you got or whatever. And it's like, bro, first of all, like if you're going to a counselor, like you got a friend in that person, maybe deal with that over there. And then you do like a different kind of shadow work at home. Or also maybe that's your shadow work and like whatever. And if you're like not vibing it, like unschedule that shadow work session, my guy. Like it's not taxes. If you skip a shadow work, the demons aren't gonna drag you to hell like in that movie Drag Me to Hell.
You're not doing homework. You know?
Yeah, it's not homework.
Yeah.
And also everybody like if your shadow work vibe is just like what is it? Smoking a doink with a dragon?
Yeah, smoke. Yeah, puffing a doink with an effing dragon.
Yeah, if that's your shadow work, then like that's your shadow work, and it's gonna take you a lot. Like and if your shadow work is like a quick, intense sesh, for a lack of better words, or like a longer, drawn out overtime situation, like there's no wrong answers, right? I feel like this is very much like there is no. It's what is that TV show where like the questions don't matter and the points don't matter and there are no prizes?
Whose line is it anyway?
It's like the whose line is it anyways thing where it's like should you explore this as a thing? Sure, yes. Like I support and think that we should explore it as a thing. But like also it doesn't matter, and if you don't want to do it, don't do it, and none of the points are real, so it's totally fine.
Yeah. And
you
also
know what I mean?
like I think
you're not getting an award in the mail. Like, good job, you accomplished 12 shadow works.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times people are, aside from putting too much importance on it, they're also doing it too much. You know? Like, there's a point where you can be doing too much of this.
Yeah.
You gotta let yourself calm down. And that's I think where the is it safe question, like, in a less dramatic sense kind of comes from, is like, is it safe to make myself feel bad about these things that are part of my seemingly inherent nature?
Yeah.
Right? But like, you're not all shadow. You're not even more shadow than somebody else. Yeah. Right?
I mean, technically everybody's 50-50, so.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, spherical cows and vacuum guys.
The phrase itself, shadow work, is actually quite new.
Sure. Yeah.
Even though the concept is considerably older. The phrase shadow work was coined by psychologist, writer, and philosopher Carl Jung in the early 1900s. So this phrase hasn't even been around for like 100 years. So,
or is it just psychologist, writer, philosopher? And you
don't
need the and.
I mean,
because you could always add philosopher as like an end thing. You're like, oh, that guy's a poet philosopher. That guy's a carpenter philosopher.
Oh no, he also had a bunch of other things too. But I was kind of
oh my god, dude, his list would be like
don't forget about archaeologist.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
I mean, but like, let's be real. early 1900s.
And
Who
he had
wasn't
money.
an archaeologist?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody was an
Yeah.
adventurer.
Yeah.
Just like the guy who made Avatar, James Cameron.
James Cameron, yeah, adventurer.
Yeah. So the way that Carl Jung talked about shadow work is fairly different than what we think of today. And there's a ton of wonderful quotes of his, by the way, folks. All of the resources that I've used to research this episode, in addition to a page that just had like cool Carl Jung shadow work quotes, is in the sources in the show notes or in the description in YouTube. Yeah. So you can find all this stuff there. So anyway, there's many wonderful quotes of his, but I think that this quote of his encapsulates it quite well. And this quote comes from a book that he wrote called Ion in 1951. So you can tell how new that is. There's still people currently alive that were alive in 1951.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality. For no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. To become conscious of it involves recognizing the dark aspects of the personality as present and real. This act is the essential condition for any kind of self-knowledge. So to translate that, the shadow is the part of ourselves that we push down, avoid, or otherwise find unpleasant. It is difficult to see it, and it is even more difficult to unify it with the rest of your personality. So a couple of quick bullet points here. Everybody has a shadow side. Everyone. Yeah. And groups of people can have a shadow side as well. This is easiest seen on a countrywide level. So for instance, in America, our conscious side, freedom. But our shadow side, some people are less free.
And we know which people that is.
Yeah.
Or at least which people they want it to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oftentimes, we project our shadow side onto other people as well, either by coloring their actions to reflect the shadow traits, or by hyperfixating on the parts of them that we don't like, but also often subconsciously see in ourselves.
Yeah. And that's sort of like that, like, if you... That's like, okay, so I think the easiest way to understand that one is the, like, if you don't think, like, if you have some sort of, like low-grade body dysmorphia, or, like, don't think you look good particularly even just that day, like, it doesn't have to be, like, a big to-do, like a body dysmorphia, right? It could just be something as much as, like, you wake up and you're just like, I don't feel good today. I don't look good. Right, you just have, you know, like sometimes you wake up and you're like, that day, whatever that noise means as a day.
Some days are just
like it is, right? So like if on that day somebody was like, oh hey, like you look good, bro, or whatever, right? You're not gonna take it as like you look good as a compliment. Sometimes, right? Sometimes you're just gonna be like, they're just saying that because they have to say that, or like they're just gassing me up. Ugh. Or they're trying to sell me something. Like if you're at like the line at the grocery store and like a checker is like, oh, that's like a cute dress or whatever. All right. Or like whatever. And you're just like, they're just, right? Because you've just like colored the thing. Like you wrote intention into their actions because you are feeling a vibe.
Yeah. Or like everybody's got a lazy coworker. Like, are you complaining about a lazy coworker who doesn't do this or that thing because they're always on their phone? Meanwhile, you're literally complaining about this while you're on your
potentially
phone.
Even on your phone into the internet, which is a very fun tweet to see. Like, people these days don't work very hard. And it's like, well, I mean, it's 2:00 and you just made that tweet, my guy. So I'm just going to say, what are you doing? It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
You should be at work.
Yeah. Now, shadow traits, they're picked up all throughout your life, and our childhoods are also not entirely to blame. So doing shadow work is not about finding fault necessarily with the way that your childhood situation was, although that can certainly play into it. Some people say that doing shadow work isn't safe, but that's also not entirely true. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit.
Also, I don't know that, just to cut in here, finding fault intrinsically implies some moralistic coloring or like situational coloring, which effectively makes the shadow work more difficult to do, right? Like just the statement that you said, like if you were like you don't need to explore some fault in your rearing, right? Your upbringing as a child. Okay, but shadow work is neither finding fault nor is it not finding fault technically, but it, like, from my perspective at least, it's more about recognizing the things that occurred while you were raised.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, finding fault is intrinsically coloring them, which is forcing you to have to interact with that part of the shadow more than simply recognizing that, like, this is a thing that happened. A1 steak sauce here. That shit happened in the past, and unless you're Marty McFly and you own a questionably safe car to drive at 88 miles an hour, you ain't going back there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, it's not about blame. It's about, and I would almost argue it's almost not even about forgiveness. It's about acceptance. It's like a different thing entirely, you know? And this is part of that, like, linguistically speaking, shadow work is a spooky because we use the word shadow and we talk about darkness. And so that causes us to automatically
And we're also using the word work.
Yeah, which is already awful. I don't know about y'all. But so we're already coloring our interaction with the idea of it in a negative light, which is what allows us to easily slip into the, like, linguistic characterization of, like, faults or like negative traits or fears or anything like that. And as such, that's part of the work, is like seeing yourself say that and being like, I don't need to add that color.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So doing shadow work is oftentimes seen as not being safe because it can be emotionally and mentally taxing. But as we mentioned before, I think that shadow work, much like practicing magic, should be treated like working out in a gym. If you keep working the same muscle group without a break, or keep working without a break, you're bound to get hurt. And it's going to take you a long time to recover from that. And longer each time you have an injury, so to speak. And it's going to only hinder your progress. So or
you're going to be off balance like that guy from Lady in the Water, that M. Night Shyamalan movie. He only works out one arm or whatever that is, and he just, like, looks weird, right? So you're going to be, like, unbalanced, which is, like, kind of the point, is
so
to
you want to
achieve
take
balance or whatever.
breaks from doing shadow work.
Yeah.
And it may help some people to meet with a therapist. That way you're sort of you've got a partner in this, you know, to kind of help you keep an even keel, much like you would work with a personal trainer. Yeah.
Well, and again, like, if your therapist, for a lack of better words, is your priest, shaman, BFF, significant other, friend, or whatever, dude that you complain with at the bar, like, all of those things, you know, like, the joke is that, like, the cheapest bartender or the cheapest therapist is a bartender, right? Although it's not. Just drinking so expensive. Oh my Christ. Right? Go to San Francisco, tell me that bartender's a cheaper therapist than going to a therapist in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about that. Well, at least the amount that I drink, I don't know about that. So yeah, like, you don't necessarily have to, like, seek, in, like, quotes, bold underline in lights, you know, in living color, like, professional help. But, like, if you need help, like, there are a myriad of circumstances whereupon you can find it.
Certainly, yes.
You know?
And I know that, like, I and, like, other things out there about shadow work aren't entirely selling this whole do shadow work thing, but it is helpful to absolutely everyone. The slow process of unifying your shadow and conscious self is rewarding. You'll understand yourself better, which means that you will hurt yourself less. It helps you understand other people better, making for more healthy relationships and also hurting other people less. And it helps you create a better world for everyone else too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely pro shadow work, right?
Yeah, so...
I'm a large enough proponent of shadow work to say that, like, before I knew there was a structure in shadow work was a thing that I was already doing. You know what I'm saying?
Me too.
Like,
Me too, absolutely.
Like, I like this. I like the, like, terms and structures and stuff like that, but I'm also very much like unask the question, don't bind yourself with terminology and words. Words are thought prisons. Sort of energy about that. And like the more I study shadow work in like my personal practice, the more I recognize that like these are things that I have either been doing for a long time, or like if it's a specific sort of task oriented thing, it's like, oh yeah, like I remember coming to the conclusion that I should do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And doing that before I knew that it was like, ooh, step 47 of this thing is blah, blah, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, you know?
Yeah. Well, as Carl Jung said in 1939, in its deepest sense, the shadow is the invisible saurian tail that man still drags behind him. Carefully amputated, it becomes the healing serpent of the mysteries. So he agrees with you.
Yeah.
From beyond the grave.
Yeah.
Now, shadow work isn't all about Carl Jung.
So wait a minute, shut up. Does that mean that shadow work is our dinosaur?
Low key. The shadow side of you is low key.
Your shadow is a dinosaur, or maybe some sort of a lizard person, like in some sort of a hollowed earth.
Oh, no, we're not. Oh no, it's the conspiracy theory of the episode.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Is your shadow the lizard people that they're always telling us about? I don't know who they are that's telling us about it, but I know lizard people are like a thing.
I have never really understood it. Like, there are definitely some people that look like lizards, but like there's also people that look like other creatures too. Like, you know, I don't really understand the whole lizard people thing.
Yeah, I don't get it.
But
I do love, as a fan of Godzilla and King Kong, I do love A Hollow Earth. Oh man, or like Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah,
I read like
fun.
all those books, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen like every edition of that movie. I love the secret underground dinosaurs. I'm so excited about that. Right?
Yeah,
and like the new
fun.
one, they got portals too. Secret underground dinosaurs and portals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's very fun.
It's quite rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus the like intrinsic connection to Dyson spheres. Like if Earth is just like a weird naturally occurring Dyson sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's rad. That's rad.
Yeah. So shadow work isn't all about Carl Jung. The concept of shadow work, but not necessarily the phrase, is not new. Spiritual and shamanic journeys throughout the world have always been about the quest to make yourself more whole, which really in its deepest essence is the key to shadow work.
Yeah. The
is the goal.
The seeking, finding, and integrating of the parts of the self cast in shadow by the parts of the self that you wish to illuminate in order to feel good about yourself in an everyday situation.
Yeah.
Right? So like if you're the Eye of Sauron and all you're doing is lighting up the stuff that you're hype on, you're not going to see those two little assholes with hairy feet running at you with a ring trying to end your shit.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
That's right.
So
Buddhist teacher Tara Brach talks about the interactions between the Buddha, Siddhartha, and the shadow god Mara, who represents greed, hate, and delusion. She says, basically, Buddha sits all night under the Bodhi tree, and Mara tried everything to make him fail in his quest for enlightenment, sending him storms, temptresses, demons, and armies. Siddhartha met all of them with an awake and compassionate presence, and as the day dawned, he transcended into the Buddha, a fully realized being. Even after his enlightenment, Siddhartha, or the Buddha, meets up by chance with Mara and invites him to tea as an honored guest. So imagine that Mara appears in your life as a fear of failure. What if you paused and responded with, "I see you," recognizing the response, the emotional response that you're giving. Let's have tea, allowing the response to exist rather than pushing it down. Instead of avoiding the feeling or beating yourself up about this response, fear of failure, you can respond to life with more more clarity, graciousness, kindness, and ease.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
And Buddha isn't the only one who deals with this. You can really find examples from all over all spiritual,
like everything,
all
totally.
spiritual traditions. In the Yoga Sutra, 1.33 gives advice on creating a serene mental state, which is a place that you would find once you have sort of achieved different levels of shadow work. So the projection of friendliness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity towards things, respectively, joyful, sorrowful, meritorious, or deleterious, leads to the serenity of the mind.
All right, yeah, man.
Personally, my favorite way to do shadow work, which was sort of the way that I started with shadow work without even really realizing that I was doing shadow work, is astrology. Yes, I am one of those girls.
Yeah. What is those? Some stars?
Buckle up.
They probably mean something, man.
They sure do. Yeah. So in astrology,
you know what they mean? They mean that atoms need to be made as we fuse gases into heavier and denser particles.
Take your boy woo out of here.
That's not boy woo. That's just physics. There's no woo on that. There's a little bit of woo on that, but there's almost no woo on that. Boy woo, science. I'm not saying boy woo is science.
Yeah. So we have a whole astrology episode coming up. So.
Do we now?
Yes, we do. So bear with me here.
I never know what's happening. Sometimes at all.
So in astrology, you can use a few places to understand your shadow self. Some of these are relatively top level astrology, where like a lot of people know about, it's easy to find. And some of these are like a little bit deeper. You need to have a little bit more knowledge for it, or a little bit more resources anyway. Mm-hmm. So you can first look at your sun sign. This is the day that you were born. You know, are you a Taurus? Are you a Gemini? Are you a Scorpio? What's up with that? So with your sun sign,
the main one?
Yes.
Okay.
So that is based on.
I know nothing about astrology, and the crazy part is we go over this like at least twice a year.
You and I talk about this all the time.
I like sit down. I was going through one of my old sketch pads, and I found a like astrology layout that I had made to like explain how astrology works that you had given me.
Yeah.
And I had like drawn a chart.
Yeah, you
to
did.
Understand, and I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this fucking chart means.
I remember that.
I literally just found it the other day, and I was just like, I don't know what this fucking means.
So you can find your sun sign by basically looking at the day that you were born and comparing that to like the season of that, right? So I'm a Taurus. That means that I was born between approximately April 20th and May 20th. So mid-April to mid-May.
Yeah.
And so the way to look at this for the sun sign is you essentially look at the negative traits of your sign. This is really the most accessible place to use astrology for this, because this stuff is easy to find, right? Mm-hmm. So, but again, resources in the dibbly-doo if you're interested.
Yeah.
So Taurus,
and if you can't find something or anything's confusing or you have more questions, you can hit us up on social media or whatever, but honestly, the fastest and easiest way to do that would just be to like leave a comment on the YouTube video for this, or Nerd Jive on YouTube. Just like find the episode on YouTube and just be like, hey, I'm looking for, like, let's just use astrology as an example. I'm looking for astrology information about this. What's up? Do you know something? And we're just going to like help you.
Yeah, totally.
Right, like that's 100% what we're doing.
Yeah, so I'm going to use myself here as the example for all of these astrologically based ones, because that is the thing that I know the best.
Sure.
For me, anyway.
Maybe.
No,
yeah.
So Taurus is there are many negative traits, but the two main ones is that they're lazy and stubborn.
Okay.
So you basically would look at
like
that.
A bull.
Like a bull, yes. Yeah. So you basically would look at that and go, okay, well, in what way, if you're to use this as shadow work, you would look at this as like, okay, well, like in what ways in my life am I being stubborn? In what ways am I being lazy? And how is that impacting those areas of my life? Does it make sense for me to be stubborn or lazy? Why do I start making these emotional responses, understanding like, okay, well, like, yes, I feel this way, and like this is something that I probably should change, but like, why is this trigger happening that's causing me to do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if you notice, none of the things that you said were specifically focusing on removing stubbornness or laziness.
Yeah.
This is the Eye of Sauron rule. I'm officially calling it that from now on.
And
right?
we'll talk more about this when we get into the techniques section. But yeah.
But this is that Eye of Sauron rule directly associated with the Lego rule. But like it's like you're not trying to like, oh, I'm lazy, therefore I should work on not being lazy. That doesn't address you being lazy. That is you just doing some shit.
Yeah, but like...
that potentially you didn't want to do or need to do. It's about recognizing, seeing, right? Eye of Sauron style, seeing where you're being lazy, and then all of the constituent details around being lazy, right? That's sort of like seeing there's a bunch of trees walking this direction. But if you don't notice all of the rest of the army, because they're small, then you're just like, it's 12 trees, we got this.
Yeah.
Then your shit gets caved in, right? So it's not just like, it's like seeing and recognizing, right? And to that extent, when you observe something, you effectively give yourself the capacity to affect change on it. Simply through the act of knowing that it exists. Yeah. Right? Because sometimes you're like, I'm gonna be lazy about this. And then you do you're practiced at shadow work, you've integrated the laziness, and you're like, is that lazy as shit? Absolutely. But also, F that guy. I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. And that's totally okay because like that guy's an ass. F that guy. Right? But like sometimes you gotta be like, I'm just gonna be lazy about this. And then you're like, but also, that's how you get ants. Put that shit in the trash, girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's not about change specifically. It's about the observation that allows you to effectively affect change.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
So that's your sun sign. Next up is Chiron. Chiron is oftentimes called the wounded healer. And
is it the guy who wants coins?
No.
To cross the river? Isn't his name Chiron?
Yes, but no.
But not this one.
Not this one.
This two guys, same name. I don't know about that. Everybody has a different name in my mind.
No, this is the half man, half horse guy.
Oh! The one who teaches Percy Jackson how to fight or whatever.
Yeah, Chiron.
Is that who Chiron is?
Yes.
Chiron?
Yeah. Oh. He's the teacher.
Who am I thinking of? Who's the River Styx guy?
You're thinking of the guy that takes you to the underworld.
Yeah, I know. What's his name? Sharon.
Charon. Sharon. Yeah.
Oh.
Similar names different guys.
One is a horse, one is a boatman. Different things.
Yeah, so Chiron is the wounded healer. And this is technically an asteroid, not a planet, in case you were like, I don't know of a planet named that. It's technically an asteroid. Astrology is more than just planets. There's also asteroids and other stars and other things happening.
Isn't Chiron a moon?
No, it's an asteroid.
Now, I'm going to look that one up because I think that they named one of the... There's like 97 moons in our solar system.
Yeah, they may have named a moon Chiron, but this is specifically an asteroid. So my Chiron, my wounded healer, which is sort of Chiron helps you like see some of the shadow side traits, the places where you hurt, your like soul wound. For lack of a better term. So my Chiron is in Taurus, which can be manifested in laziness or things that take a while to form. And in astrology, you also have houses. So my Chiron is in the 4th house because basically your birth chart is a clock and
it's Harry Potter rules.
It is Harry Potter rules. Yeah. So my 4 o'clock basically is, it has to do with family and security. So my soul wound happens with security in the form of things that take a while to form. When something takes too long to become realized, it makes me feel that like things are not secure. Yeah. Right? So it's sort of like a thing where you're like, okay, I can see that this is a thing that astrologically will affect me, and then I can go, what are ways in my life that this has
manifested?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So that's Chiron.
Yeah. We're gonna interrupt on Chiron. Aside about Chiron. Okay, it's even better than Chiron being a moon. Chiron is the name given to a supposed moon of Saturn, cited by Hermann Goldschmidt in 1861, but has since been found to not exist. He thought he observed a moon in April of 1861, orbiting between Titan and Hyperion.
Oh, wild.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but the discovery was never confirmed, and Chiron has never been observed again. He just saw the Death Star.
That's aliens, my dude.
It's he just saw aliens, maybe.
Yeah, that's aliens. Yeah. So moving along into the next place in your astrological chart that can help you with this stuff is your 7th house. And so basically your 7 o'clock asterisk, these things aren't actually in the same place as a clock face as they are in your birth chart, but that's a conversation for a different podcast. Anyway, your 7th house, your 7 o'clock hour, is your mirror self. And this is directly opposite of your rising sign, which is what people tend to notice first about you and sort of your like conscious mind's ideal you. So my rising sign is Capricorn, which means that people tend to notice that I am like business. Also, I tend to slip into business, and
you're very business.
I am very business. I'm very driven. Capricorn's like thing is like a half ram, half fish. So I am definitely swimming towards being stubborn.
The weirdest form of mermaid.
Yeah, the weirdest form of mermaid.
Oh, look at that beautiful mermaid. Oh, nope, that's a goat on top and a fish below.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a real weird mermaid. We should probably get out of this water. Don't drink that water.
Yeah.
Something in this water.
So, like a very
Godzilla of mermaids over here.
Strong, driven, results-oriented kind of person. That's my rising sign. So, yes.
Yeah.
So
results-driven. Boom.
Yeah.
I like answers.
You are also a Capricorn. Yes.
I know. That's why I said that. I know 10% of this stuff, man. All right.
Mostly because I talk about
barely. Yeah, mostly because you mentioned it enough that I picked up a background radiation.
Yeah, so the opposite side of your rising sign is your 7th house, which is your mirror self. So the opposite of Capricorn is Cancer. And these traits are the ones that I would have a harder time with manifesting, in that I may not realize that I'm doing it, but I'm projecting it
onto other people.
It's happening.
You're thinking these Cancer signs are what other people are doing to you.
Or the traits that I don't like about them.
Yes. Bam.
Yeah. So for me, that's Cancer. And the negative traits for Cancer would be moody and controlling. And also, I want to just sort of...
Wait a minute, what is this, your rising sign?
No, this is my 7th house sign is Cancer.
Because it's opposite of your rising sign.
Correct. Yeah.
And rising is different than the sun.
That is correct, yes. We're going to do a whole... It's coming up soon, y'all.
Boy, and this upcoming podcast about astrology is going to be me also sitting. I'm going to sit behind the camera and just learn this podcast with y'all. Huh? We're going to do this podcast together. And she's just going to lecture us because I'm never going to remember any of this stuff, man. But it's too much math. And I love math. That's crazy.
So, full disclosure on this, y'all, like when we're talking about this stuff, a lot of times I'm like, oh yes, this means that I am, oh no.
Realizations,
right?
Yeah.
So
we love realizations. Remember the ISL
shadow work
rule?
Isn't always a sit down, pour yourself a drink. Things are happening in a ritualistic way. Sometimes it's just little things where you're like, oh no.
Sometimes it's a ceiling spider. A new rule I'm just adding right now, ceiling spiders. Some things we learn not as a planned piece of knowledge like a school, but sometimes you're just walking through your house, and I don't know if this happens at your house, but at our house, sometimes you're walking or sitting there, and a spider just goes like, into human eye height.
Yeah.
Into
and
face
then,
height.
Like, in your
Most
mind...
of the time it's a daddy long leg who's immediately just like, oh my God. If I don't move, maybe they don't... Oh, no, they're seeing me. I'm going to do that leg wobbly thing where I try and crawl up my web, but, they're not going to do that. So you got to gently... I just literally did this yesterday. And you got to, gently carry them outside and be like, no, sir. You go out here. Yeah. We're not murder, but, jeez, man.
Yeah, but, when you see that stuff, there's, this sound that happens in your mind where it's like... blah, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, no.
so the last place in your birth chart that you can kind of look at for these the shadow work
truths.
stuff is your 12th house, which is the one that comes right before your rising sign. And the 12th house is your subconscious. This is the home of your emotional blocks and also how you deal with yourself when you withdraw and go into hermit mode. So my 12th house is ruled by Sagittarius, which means that I can be, again, negative traits here, absent-minded and rebellious. I feel I am personally attacked by myself.
You attacked yourself in this write-up here, my guy?
Whole section,
that's sassy. You should have attacked me.
Well,
that's nicer. That's a far nicer attack.
Well, maybe we'll do that for you when we do the astrology episode.
Yeah, maybe.
Now
just blow me up astrologically or whatever.
Let me astrologically roast you.
Absolutely fling fucking meteors from the bloody Oort clouds and the asteroid belt. Just demolish my planet.
I'm not trying to get a divorce here, bud.
I mean, listen, I don't know about any of this, but this one specifically is being real sassy to you. So we'll see what the next one says.
All of them are.
Right?
So any planets in, so your sun sign, that's the sun, that's the planet, right? That's not a planet, but that's the planet as far as astrology counts. So yeah. Chiron, also not a planet, technically counts as a planet here.
It's common.
Any planets in the 7th or 12th houses change the flavor a little bit, sometimes enhancing it, sometimes just sort of modifying that flavor. So I have no planets in my 7th house.
Yeah.
That's fine. It still has an effect. But
it just only means the moody
it doesn't have a modifier. Yeah. So but in my 12th
modifier
house,
is a great way to describe that. Yeah.
But in my 12th house, I have Neptune. Neptune lives in my 12th house of my subconscious. And the modifier that Neptune brings to this, it means essentially that I'm more prone to spin off into fantasy and get delulu about stuff when I go hermit mode.
Oh. Neptune's really reinforcing the absent-mindedness, huh?
It sure is. Yeah. So that's the astrology thing.
Fading into the shadows there.
Yeah.
Love.
And rather than necessarily bringing this back up later, but this is the way that I primarily do my shadow work. This is the way
this astrological
because it allows me to look at traits that essentially are predicted for me to have in a more objective way than going, why am I such a piece of shit? That's a whole thing.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good guidestone. I'm excited to learn. I mean, listen, I know. In fact, I don't even have to look this up. I can just go to probably that thing that I have in my notebook over there. Because I probably wrote all this stuff down because we probably talked about these things. But also, I have no memory of any of them.
Oh, buddy, I got your whole birth chart and I can pull it up
look how fired up she is right now. She just got so attacked that she got that fired to just distribute the load of sass.
Yeah, I'm guys. Just you want me to astrologically roast you? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, man. Listen, if this podcast episode ends in Jonathan crying, I don't care. Right? That's how I feel about that. Spherical cows in a vacuum, this whole ass thing, man.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about techniques. Let's change the subject here. Yeah. Just a little bit.
You want to take a little break? Get a drink? Have a smoke? Eat some pancakes? Whatever those are?
Yeah, let's have a smoke and a pancake. So the ideal technique for you, dear listener, to do shadow work will be highly individualized because we are all such drastically different people.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I did compile some things that you can do. Feel free to combine them.
Yeah. Or if we list something, if we don't list something, but it's the thing that you do, let
us know. Absolutely.
Share it with the class, my guy. Yeah. Right? You brought that snack to this classroom. I hope you brought enough. It's just a spider on my camera. Look at this guy. Look at this little tiny butthole. This guy.
It's so wild.
Cute.
It's just a little one.
Yeah, it's one of them little everywhere there's jumping spiders, 7,000 species of jumping spiders.
Yeah.
Little guys. Yeah. They're all over the place, dude. I don't know. They just love this house. Whatever, man. It's just fucking arachnid house.
So, I found a quote from a guy named Daryl Sharp. I don't know who that is, so maybe this is, weird.
Maybe it's a bad quote. Yeah.
Maybe it's a bad quote.
Yeah. If this guy's a butt, let us know. But if he's cool,
but he
also
said,
let us know.
There is no generally effective technique for assimilating the shadow. It is more like diplomacy or statesmanship, and it is always an individual matter. First, one has to accept and take seriously the existence of the shadow. Second, one has to become aware of its qualities and intentions. This happens through conscientious attention to moods, fantasies, and impulses. Third, a long process of negotiation is unavoidable.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig that. I like that. That completely makes sense. Also, that's basically the thing that I was saying, right? First you see it, then you understand it, then you negotiate being around.
Then you invite it to tea.
I feel like in my mind as you were reading that, I pictured like humanity interacting with Mother Nature, right? Like I think that the global shadow is like not poisoning Earth.
Yeah.
A thing that should be obvious, but seems remarkably complex for people to accept. So it's like first you observe that you're ruining shit. Then you understand specifically how you're ruining shit, and then we negotiate. Stop ruining that. Specifically isolate this over here.
Well,
maybe we build a thing to capture it.
You're sort of missing a spot, a layer,
right?
There. So it's seeing that you're doing it, how you're doing it, why you're doing it.
Yeah, why you're doing it.
Then
totally.
Negotiation.
Sometimes, some things have to, right? But some things, maybe we don't need to be like burning all that and putting it into the ozone layer or whatever.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
I get it.
As far as techniques go, the first one is meet with a therapist. This is definitely not for everybody, and not every therapist is for everyone. Different ones have different styles, but figuring out how to do shadow work can be difficult, and having a guiding hand can be very helpful, especially if you are someone who, one, has worked with a therapist before and has had good experiences with them. Two, is someone who may be taking medications to change or elevate or otherwise modify your mood. If you're already working with a therapist, continue to do this with them. You're probably already doing shadow work and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
And also, if you are someone who has intense trauma or PTSD, don't embark on this journey alone. Find a therapist to at least help get you started, because they will be far more qualified to help you if you are having a very difficult time than anyone that you know, regardless of how much they care about you. So that's number one. You don't have to do number one, but that's it. Also, if you are having a mental health emergency, seek out the appropriate person or entity to help you through that. Very important things. So next up, it's meditation. I know. We talk about meditation every single time. It's because it's so important.
But if it works.
Yeah. And meditation really is the most fundamentally basic piece of shadow work, as far as basically any culture in any time, and Carl Jung has anything to say about it. So meditate. Use a guided meditation. Meditate however you want, but incorporate meditation to help yourself sort of deal with this.
Well, so like the whole thing with meditation is that meditation is intrinsically the act of observing. Right? But not like doing a thing about it, right? Meditation is the tusk, honey. That's my spot.
He stole your spot.
He stole my spot. Listen, I know the dog. Well, you can't see him, but cuter than me. So
this tiny puppy, bring me this puppy.
I'm just gonna steal your body, and then I'm gonna do that. Look at this. Look at this boy. Look at this human boy right now. Okay. Would you go over there? Because it's still like 84 in this house. And I'll die. So yeah. No, so the act of meditating is like intrinsically observing the mind as it moves.
Yeah.
Right? And just like letting it move of its own volition and kind of like just being part of it. Right? So like, of course, if shadow work involves observation, right? You meditate. That's your observation step, and then you can do the analysis and the asking questions and the integration or whatever the heck, right?
Yep.
Whether it's integration or problem solving or anything to that
Yep.
extent. So, like, obviously meditation, regardless of how you define or act through meditation, and meditation, I've said this a million times, you don't need to sit in a thing with your legs in a particular position and your hands all, absorbing whatever, right? Or the back, what's the backwards one? The backwards one? No, it was like this.
Oh, it's like this.
Yeah, that's the right one. And
Yeah.
this one's
We watched the whole movie.
We watched the whole thing
Yeah.
about this. Yeah, we're gonna do a movie review for it.
It's a horror movie.
It was amazing. It was a horror
FYI.
movie.
Yeah.
But no. So like meditation is obviously the first step, regardless of whether that meditation is like sitting there doing ohms, right, or like you're just gardening, or like on a sit down lawnmower and just like vibes.
Or like taking a walk.
Or taking a
washing
walk.
the dishes.
Yeah, or washing the dishes, right? Micro meditations.
Yeah.
Tiny moments of clarity.
Yeah.
I think of them.
So next up, dream journaling. Carl Jung did this extensively.
He did love
so
dream
much
journals.
so, in fact, that he a couple of his published work are just his dream journals, which have both words and
Well, he also had his
images in them.
patient's dream journal.
Yes. Yeah.
Journal.
And in my opinion, not all of our dreams are trying to tell you something. We've talked about this in the lucid
Several
dreaming
things,
episode, as well as several other episodes. But not all, in my opinion, not all your dreams are trying to tell you something, but some of them definitely are.
Yeah.
And if you are going to dream journal, the best way to do that is first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Before you really get started with your day, because otherwise it starts to fade. Like I had this dream the other day that I was at a clothing store. This is a very common dream for me. And I'm like...
At a clothing store is a common dream?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was
as an employee or a customer?
As like a customer. And I'm like looking
Okay.
through the clothes on the rack, and
Yeah.
I like saw this really cute dress. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna like draw that dress when I get out of bed and do stuff. But then I was like, oh, I want to do yoga, and then I have to like wash some of the dishes so I can make coffee and tea. And by the time I got done to it, I was like, oh no. Like I remember the color of the dress,
Yes.
but like I don't remember anything
What
about
color was this dress?
It was white. It was like white, like lace, sort of.
Yeah.
It was very cute, like
lace
sundress.
dresses. Yeah.
Sundress kind of vibes.
Yeah.
But like I don't remember anything about it other than it was like a white lace dress. It was like a sundress, and there were definitely buttons on it. So I just lost that really cool dress that I literally dreamed about.
Yeah.
So dream journal, do it when you first get up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Also, your dream, dream journal paper, dream journal cell phone, right? Whatever your dream journal wants to be. Let me tell you, as a writer, I hate writing. That's not true. It's not that I hate writing. It's just that my hands do not write or type as fast as my brain thinks stuff. You just taking laps up there, boy? You gotta sit down, honey. Yeah, there you go. I saw him in the camera just like circling.
Yeah, he's doing
little laps.
He's just trying to find a comfortable spot.
So like what I do when I wake up, right? And I'll do this in the middle. I'll wake up at like 3:00 in the morning and do this, right? Is like as soon as I wake up, so when I wake up, I don't wake up and then like I don't wake up with my eyes opening. Does that make sense? Like I'm not like awake, right?
No,
like I
you
can be awake with my eyes still
before
closed.
your eyes. Okay.
Yeah, before I am moving and my eyes are
okay. I
open.
do that too.
Yeah, I don't think that's uncommon. I'm just saying, like I'm not just like right. Like when you're first starting to wake up, right? Just go like tell yourself the story of your dream. Like in your mind, sit around the campfire of your consciousness and like share the story. We don't have time to get into the cosmic audience, but like tell your story to the audience in the place without places and faces. Like tell your story into the void, just so you repeat it, right? And sometimes I will do this 2 or 3 times.
See,
right?
for me, it's more
And
about
then by the time I get up, I have time to like get coffee or sit down at my laptop or whatever. Like the other day when I told you about the Lotus Eater's dream,
Yeah.
right? Like I had told myself that story a couple of times in my head when I woke up.
Yeah.
And then by the time you were done with yoga, even though I had been like surfing the internet and stuff, I was able to be like, oh, this is this dream that I had. And you were like, oh, you should write that down. Because it's like a cool story or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was able to type it all out.
Yeah.
Like several hours after consciousness was achieved. Right? But that's because I'm relying on that like bardic storytelling, that campfire skill, you know?
Yeah. For me, remembering a dream and doing dream journaling is really more about remembering like snapshots of the dream,
Pictures.
Specific imagery, sometimes pictures, but like specific imagery from the dream. It's more about remembering that like moment in time. Like when I leave the house and I'm like, oh, did I turn the oven off? I am searching in the like visual Polaroid Rolodex of my mind for me turning that off and being
your brain is microfiche.
A little bit, yeah.
Non-moving.
Yeah, sometimes the microfiche is vibes, but like it is pictures, which is interesting because be I love microfiche. I don't often like when we've talked about this with a few of our friends. Like we've talked about this. Like when I'm listening to an audiobook, I don't really just like imagine that world. Like, I don't see that in my mind's eye.
Dude, let me tell you, sometimes when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm, like, doing yard work, and then I, like, tune back into reality, and I'm like, oh, look at all this stuff I got done. My body hurts. This is crazy. Because I was just, like, absolute god-moding this other world. Totally, like, full color 4K pictures and sounds.
No, not at all.
Like... background action undescribed in the book as my brain is filling in a reality.
I mean, like, sometimes,
the
but
laws
generally,
of physics, the whole
generally
thing.
only under altered states of consciousness.
Oh.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on from dream journaling. Divination is another great way to do shadow work.
Yeah.
So basically, choose your favorite method and start doing readings. Take your time to meditate on and incorporate the lessons learned from your pull.
Tarot frequently, and inevitably your cards are going to be like, girl, let me fucking tell you about how you should not be dealing with this, or how you should be dealing with this, or what this thing is, you know, when you're just like, I don't really know that I don't know if I want to do this, and your cards are like, you should probably not do this, and you're just like, I don't know, man, I don't know, and then like the next time you draw cards, like a day later, your cards are like, I don't know, maybe you should be not doing stuff right now, and you're like, I don't know if I really want to do this, and then like the third day your cards are like, don't do this, and you're like, oh, they've been talking about this thing the whole time.
Or like, you should do this.
Or should do this, right? Like, I mean, it's both sides.
Yeah.
Right?
I have found that as far as divination goes with shadow work, it is easier for me to ask the cards what it is that I need to know. Not like, what do I need to work on? Because like, maybe that's going to be like, you need to work on this painting that you started 2 weeks ago and still aren't done with. And that's not shadow work. That's just me not having finished the thing. Although maybe that is shadow work.
Unless that shadow work is about laziness.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Everything's shadow work. It's all shadows. Everything's shadows.
I definitely thought about working on that painting tonight and was like, that's too much work. It's too hot.
It's too much work. It's too hot. Yeah.
And there's like fumes. No, I don't want to do that. Shut it down. Yeah. So anyway, so like if you pull the Hierophant card, for instance, and you don't have to use tarot, you can use anything.
You can do runes
tarot is the thing that I know the most.
Yeah.
So like if you pull the Hierophant card, you may need to examine your relationship with religious dogma.
Yeah.
The Sun card would nudge you to look into why you're only interested in good vibes.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Emperor
card... Or maybe that it's hot and you need to get your shit together.
Yeah. Or the Three of Swords card would basically be pointing you to look in the direction of people who betrayed you and perhaps your exes.
I don't know what any of the cards are off the top of my head. But also, I use almost no traditionally organized decks. I have like one deck that uses traditional nomenclature, and I almost never use that deck. So to me, I have no connection there.
Yeah.
But
this next one is the least woo-woo of literally all of these options, and this is observation and introspection. So when you notice a feeling arrive, serve it tea. Don't push that feeling down. Don't push it away. Don't avoid it. Feel it, but also explore why you're feeling this way. What triggered you to feel that way? But avoid the trying to fix part of that.
Yeah.
Understanding
just vibes,
why
bro.
you felt that way is much more significant than trying to go, how can I avoid it? Remember I just said don't avoid that feeling?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I would say, right, from the way that I work in shadow, like I would say at first, just observe it, just like feel it. Try to feel it in like a memory way, right? Like try to just like be there, dog, right? Like when you like if you're in the coffee shop and like somebody walks into the coffee shop and you're like, ugh, that's, I don't know, whoever, Brian. Ugh, that's Brian. Right? Like don't be like, ugh, that's Brian. But also don't be like, get the fuck out of here, Brian. Right? Just be like, oh, that's Brian over there. And just be like cool that he's in this coffee shop now. Right?
Yeah.
Just like observe it happening. Don't try to integrate. Don't try to understand. Just like observe it. Work there first. Once you can just like be like, I'm getting angry right now. Then you can start being like, I'm getting angry because this person's not shutting up. That's what's getting, it's the not shut up that's getting me. That's what it is. Right? Then you can be like, all right, well, why is this person not shutting up getting me? Is the fact that they're not shutting up because they're being annoying, or is it because they're saying like a bunch of truths that I super don't want to hear right now, my guy? Right?
Yeah.
Or is it because they're being like, oh, this person's not shutting up, and they're just like doing put downs?
Yeah.
Right? Now that you've observed and understood, then you can be like, all right, well, they're saying shit that I don't want to hear right now, so I'm just gonna like take it on the chest and accept that. Like, I'm not ready for these truths, but like this person is trying to help. Whatever. And also, like, sometimes you're like, oh, this person's not, I want them to shut up, but they're not shutting up because I'm getting a bunch of put downs. I think a correct decision is to tell them to shut up. Hey, shut up. And then, problem solved.
Yeah.
So, like, but first you Eye of Sauron, then you send goblins or whatever the hell it is after some people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Orc or whatever.
Yeah. So next up is using art to unlock your feelings. So use the medium you like the most and create what your inner self wants to create, even if it's emotional or difficult. And sort of as like a subplot to this, like I've been getting this ad on Instagram for like a while now.
Yeah.
And it's for some app that's doing somatic yoga. And they're like, I went into this yoga position and I started crying. And
What's
then
somatic yoga?
I don't really know.
Okay. That's fair. I guess it's an advert, so who knows?
I
could have made it up.
like kind of looked at it, but I was like, I don't want to be involved in this.
You're like, I don't got time for that right now.
I'm not hating on it. Like, if it works for you, great. Right. But like somebody was like, they're like, oh, like I got into this position and I don't know why. And I started crying, like, and then afterwards I felt better. Like that sort of thing. Like,
sure. Oh, sure.
That is also sort of a form of shadow work, but try to understand why that's happening. So aside from art, you can also use other physical mediums.
Well,
like,
art is a term we use to define expression chosen for observation or otherwise interpretation, right? So whether your art is like painting, the art that everybody thinks of when you say art, or like music, which like nobody's gonna argue music isn't art, but like sometimes like people don't think about music as art. But your art could be like martial arts. I mean, arts is in the word, so
it is, yeah.
Right? So your art could be like kung fu. Your art could be boxing. Your art
could be somatic yoga.
Yeah, your art could be gardening. Your art could be flower arranging. Your art could be absolutely delicious spreadsheets. I mean, that kind of spreadsheet that you open up sometimes and you're like, I gotta change this number to 7 because it's like, I thought it was 5, right? Because we all thought it was 5. And then Linda was like, no, actually it costs 7. And you're like, oh my fucking God. And then you type a 7 in there and you hit enter and 5 spreadsheets update automatically based off of a single cell, and you're just like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this.
So
that's
use
also art.
Yeah. Yeah. Next up, list your own positive traits.
Yeah.
Then their generalized negative counterparts. Generalized here is the thing,
Operative
right?
word.
Yeah. So you don't need to go, I do this and it's the opposite. I guess you could do that, but do the generalized negative traits and then sort of see where you can go with that. Do you possess any of these negative traits?
Yeah.
Are there things that are there feelings you have to feel about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive trait, I can do a standing backflip. Negative trait, I do those everywhere and it's a little annoying. I cannot. That's just an example.
Negative trait, I did that one time at the grocery store and hit a lady in the face. I definitely cannot do a standing backflip.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my goodness. No. You can do a standing backflip. Congratulations. You're better than the rest of us.
Great job.
Full stop.
So happy.
It's always better every time. I have seen so many standing backflips in my life. Every single time, I'm just like, this guy wins. Get him a medal or something? I don't know. Damn, somebody give him $5.
Yeah. This is a really fun one that I saw that somebody recommended. Analyze your favorite stories.
Yeah, man.
Write down specifically why you liked this story and how it might represent the traits that you'd like to manifest. And when I say stories, I don't necessarily mean the myths and legends or children's stories, movies, books.
Star Wars,
Why
bro.
do you like them?
Why do you have so many lightsabers?
Yeah, and but also not just
why do you have so many
it.
Star Trek models in this house, Jonathan, specifically?
How the reasons why you like this might represent the traits you'd like to manifest.
Yeah.
Why do you want to manifest them? Are there negative traits being overcome in these stories that you are you also possess?
Is the story resolving a negative trait that you feel that you have inside of yourself? Or also, does the story portray a positive trait that you feel is the opposite of a thing that you are doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you internalize the story, right? I said Star Trek, we're going to choose Star Trek. If the internalized story of Star Trek is everybody working together and you're like, okay, so I'm a big Star Trek fan and everybody works together, but I don't want to work with people. Is maybe the everybody work together the thing where you your subconscious mind is oh no, maybe we do some integration, we figure out how to work with people, but the best you can do is watch an episode of Star Trek, watch a little TNG up in here or something, right? Measure a man or some nonsense. So just off the top of the dome example there.
Yeah.
But so yeah, absolutely. Work with stories. Let me tell you, stories secret to your
I actually
journey.
Found a book where somebody tells you all about how to do this, and I have a bid for it on eBay, so we may be coming back to this.
Oh my god, that would be so great.
But to continue the Julie roasting herself theme of this, my favorite movie of all time is Nausicaa. It's a Ghibli movie. If you have not seen it, go watch it. It is the most underrated of all of the Ghibli movies. No hate on Totoro at all. So
Totoro's not underrated. That has so much hype, bro.
Oh my god,
look at all
so
those Totoro.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying there's no
stuff.
hate on Totoro. I love Totoro.
Yeah.
But Totoro is no Nausicaa. So when I saw this person recommending this analyze your favorite stories thing, that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
And I recently did in the last year or so, a Nausicaa cosplay. And when I was doing it, I watched a bunch of stuff about Nausicaa. Because when I do a costume based on something, I want to immerse myself fully in that world, in that character, in those vibes, everything.
Totally.
And it got me thinking a lot about why I like it so much. So I had actually kind of already done this without realizing I had done this. So in Nausicaa, the positive traits that I love about her as a character is she's basically taking a broken world and having so much faith in that doing the right thing is the thing that you have to do, no matter how...
And it works.
No matter how painful it is, no matter how difficult it is, you have to do the right thing for the collective.
Yeah.
Right? And the
for the greater good.
Yeah, and for the bad guys, sort of say, the the antagonist
Yeah.
is really the better way to look at it, because even though they are quote unquote the bad guys, like there's still, you can see why they're doing the thing that they're doing. You're like, that's not the decision I would make, but I understand why you would do that, you know? Like they're basically trying to mold and control the world as it is because they are afraid. They fear the toxic jungle. They hate what they fear. And so for me, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I had another one of those blah moments where I was like, oh man, I just had like a whole realization. So that is my favorite story of all time, and how I, like, at the most surface level TLDR can use that to manifest it. Like, I'm not even gonna get into Lord of the Rings. We got a whole that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Maybe we'll
thing
get
there.
into that when we do. We'll need to do an episode on like the Bardic Enlightenment or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have bold opinions on that. So
Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
totally. Also, my favorite Studio Ghibli movie is Spirited Away.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I really like Spirited
It's
Away.
no Nausicaa.
I don't know
but
about
it's a
that.
good one.
I don't know about that.
So next up, you can use astrology to better understand yourself. I'm not going to get deeper into that because we already definitely deep dived
Yeah,
there.
that already happened.
It will help you understand your traits, which goes a long way to understand yourself. And personally, I really like using the app Time Passages. It is a bit more of an advanced app than some of the other ones, but it is
Gives you, like, all the info
It gives
you
you
want.
all the info and more for what
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah.
I do not recommend CoStar.
We are not associated with any of these apps.
Yeah.
We have no connection to either of them. I've never even heard of Time Passages, and she uses it apparently all the time.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Yeah, this is just opinions, and like asses, everybody's got them. Whatever.
Yeah. So next up is you already tried to do this one. Get roasted.
Yeah, always get roasted.
Ask a loved one to tell you the worst things about you without holding back. Try not to justify yourself.
Maybe do that in a more chill way.
Yeah. Well,
Then ask you're just like, hey, listen, what if we did a roast, but all hurt?
well, but it's not that, you
Yeah.
know, like ask a loved one to roast you.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that's kind of
give you that.
you know, try not to justify yourself.
Give you that truth, and when you're hearing that truth, just take it. Just like
Yeah, I read that and I was like, ooh, no, I'm not. No, I would rather roast myself than have somebody roast me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
It
what.
is generally harder to hear somebody else point out a problem than for you to recognize that problem on your own. But also, it's beneficial to hear somebody else point out that problem. One, they may present that problem from a different angle, right? Two, they may present a completely you're like, listen, I'm a real asshole about shit being organized. This is not me. I am disorganized. I cannot stress this enough. I could turn this camera around and people would scream. I believe in piles of chaos. That's it. That's the answer to that. But like, if you're like, I'm like a real asshole about being organized, and you like ask your family, like, what's my big, like, give me a roast. What's my big thing that I need to work on or whatever the heck. And they're just like, you're too color coordinated. It's fucking weird, man. Everything's got a color that's got a meaning. I don't understand. Right? Then you're just like, damn. I mean, that's an organization problem, but that's like a very specific one that I didn't think about, or like whatever.
A thing that we were literally talking about today.
Were we? Good. Nice.
Yeah. So get roasted, you know?
Yeah, get roasted.
Sometimes maybe the way that somebody says it is sort of like, he clicks and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. And then the last one, which is from like a blog sort of that I found online that I really, really liked. It was called Buddhism for Vampires. I'm basically going to read everything this person has written because I really loved it.
It sounds quite fascinating.
Yeah.
I haven't read any of it, but it sounds quite fascinating.
So they talk about eating your shadow. So I basically have a quote from their website for it. Again, links in the dibbly-doo. So here we go. The shadow includes everything you have rejected because it is slimy and dark, embarrassing and terrifying. Eating it can be exhilarating too, though, once you get your face into it. It's about the feelings in your stomach, sinking, cramping, nauseous, or empty, not attractive metaphysical ideas. There are 5 phases to eating the shadow: hunting, chewing, swallowing, digesting, and burning. People hide things from themselves. You have to go hunting if you want to find them again. Chewing your shadow is getting extremely intimate with a rejected bit of your reality and thoroughly experiencing it without holding it away at all. Swallowing the shadow takes it inside, so it is longer not me. You may have to regurgitate it sometimes and chew it again, though, like a cow. As you digest the shadow, it becomes a normal aspect of your experience. No longer threatening, it changes in consistency, becoming increasingly malleable. And lastly, digested shadow is fuel for creative work and practical magic. Also, that tiny spider that was on the camera is now on my laptop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's getting around, man.
He sure is.
Bro,
Okay.
don't be on the laptops. They get warm.
He did a bunch of travel, yeah.
Yeah, go somewhere else.
Yeah, so
Go to a cool place.
I think that covers everything for shadow work that we could kind of possibly cover in
Except
an
one
intro.
thing. Before we go on to our experiences in shadow work, because check out our Patreon. Because we asked our patrons what we wanted to talk about, one of them asked specifically about shadow work on hidden parts that are actually strengths. Like my interpretation of that question, right, is the sort of like the shadow of self grandeur. Right? You know, it's like let's say through a myriad of self-control, you have achieved like weight loss and physical fitness that is like that's like a positive, but you're still in like not a great place with the way that you think about yourself physically, right? As somebody who has like gone through a myriad of fitness levels in their life, I kind of get this one, right? Where it's like sometimes you're like hitting the gym a lot, right? But you're just like, I'm not really like achieving exactly the thing that I want to achieve, right? But you're still like succeeding greatly, but you're not like recognizing how much you've succeeded, right? Or like, potentially, I mean, even something as little as like, you know, if you're like, to like put too much of probably a childish spin on it, like a lot of people are afraid of the dark, but if you're okay with the dark, that's a success, right? But if you don't recognize that success, then you never get to like put yourself on a hype train. And you and I have talked about this a myriad of times because this is like one of my things.
Yeah.
Is like, don't not recognize your accomplishments. Like, pay yourself compliments, right? And I mean, I know the all right, we're back. The camera overheated. It's a warm day, and a GoPro is not like the most gangster about this, but whatever's clever. It doesn't like the heat. But yeah, so okay, so the other thing that I was gonna say is about the idea of like paying yourself compliments. Like the most standard version of the like paying yourself compliments is the like when you walk past a mirror, pay yourself a compliment, or you hear like people who work with like Aphrodite talk about like, you know, like call yourself beautiful in the mirror, like that kind of a thing, right? That's like sort of part of it, right? That's sort of like cursorily that has like a background radiation of shadow work intrinsically written into it, because part of it is, don't eat that, but because part of it is he just put his hand on my hand and was like, no, shut up, let me eat that. What an ass. So no, but it's like recognize that like if part of your shadow work is accepting that you're beautiful. This is like the in my opinion, the sort of like top of the pyramid. It's the visible part of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Right? Is the like if some people find you beautiful or attractive, but you don't find yourself beautiful or attractive, like you need to find with grace a place to accept the compliment that you're beautiful or attractive. Everything that I'm saying here does not withstand creeps.
Oh, for sure.
So let me be very fucking clear here. If somebody's like, you're so beautiful, and they're being a creep, fuck that shit. They're out. Right? Well, that's not what I'm talking about. But it's the same thing with strength. It's the same thing with inner strength or personal strength or fortitude or the capacity to, it's perfect example. I don't think that I can do art. I mean, I literally do art for a job. I understand that from a practical standpoint, but that's because internally, I have no capacity to draw a human face. Right now, I'm looking away from Julie, and I cannot see her face. I can describe her in, like, a vague human way. But most specifics are gonna go out the window immediately for me.
Yeah.
And like, my brother-in-law is a fantastic artist. I love watching him draw because it is actually close-up hand magic to me. You know, it's that like street magician shit that gets everybody else. I don't care at all about that shit. It is not interesting. But like watching a dude with just like a pencil be like, look at these lines, human face. I every time I see that happen, I feel like I had a small aneurysm pop in my head because I'm just like lines, face. Did I black out? What year is it? Who's the president? What's happening right now? I don't understand. We watch so many artists, and it fucking absolutely bottles the mind.
Yeah. We watch, no affiliation, we watch Kevin Hill oil painting. I love his stuff. He's like a modern day Bob Ross.
He is totally modern Bob Ross.
I like when we watch his videos, it's not just like for the entertainment value, right? Because it is entertaining, but also so that I can understand the things
like learn
he's
techniques
doing,
for painting.
so that I can learn the techniques, right? And he'll do something, and I'm just like, oh, that's how he does it. Okay. And John's like, what is this black magic sorcery?
This motherfucker's like, look at this. Look at him, I'm gonna put a stroke over here. I'm gonna put a stroke over here. We're gonna do this. And I swear to God, it feels like he just like swipes across the painting with his brush. And now there's 15 trees. And I'm like, am I dying right now? Is this what death feels like? What the fuck is happening? Right? So I have like no capacity for that. But I also recognize that the thing that I do as art, literally as like a person who has sold his art on several occasions as a like paid artist.
Yeah.
Right? I do abstract art. I'm very good and I like my abstract art and I appreciate my abstract art and I'm like, I hope somebody else likes it. People bought it, so yay, I guess. But I don't internally classify myself as an artist because I have no capacity for traditional art styles or mediums.
Yeah.
Oil painting is absolutely the darkest of arts. Nothing about it makes sense. It feels like it should just make a mess, and I don't understand. Bob Ross is some sort of Archon black mage. We need to address these things. I feel like a conspiracy theorist when I watch motherfuckers paint with oil painting. And she does oil painting. Like, in the house. I see it happen regularly, and every time I'm just like, I don't even know how that turned into clouds. At all. Dog.
And I'm just like, does that look like this thing? And you're just like,
but at the same time, the capacity to accomplish a goal, right? A thing that is a positive that I need to work on accepting is that like I don't call myself an artist, but I like literally sell my art and it gets bought. Right? And people like my art and the styles and abstractions of it. And at the same time, right? Same artist concept, right? You often are like, I don't know about this. This doesn't look good. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a whole beach. This is just a picture.
I'm just
you
like,
took with a fucking
this is
camera
the worst
right now.
Tree ever. And you're like, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that this, I think
accepting
that this,
the
like,
internal compliment that you don't want to pay yourself.
Yeah.
Is the vibe.
I think that I think that this is a really interesting question, right? The like, how do I recognize my shadow side traits as positives is,
or how do I recognize my positives?
Yeah,
because they're buried in shadow.
I think that this is this is definitely one of those like everybody's shadow work is like a little bit different, but for the way that this kind of mindset would go is like, how do I recognize my strong points? Is like you can ask your friends to compliment you. because they're going to compliment you about things. But here's the thing.
Just like getting roasted.
Just like getting roasted, don't try to justify those away.
Yeah. Just accept
those
the compliment.
Exactly. As someone who has done professional costuming and cosplay modeling, one of the hardest things I have ever had to learn how to do is accept a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to accept the gas.
Oh, thanks, but it's not complete. They don't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, but like my stitches aren't straight. They don't know that.
Yeah, and for the most part, if somebody's paying you a compliment, they don't fucking care.
I can't believe you benched, I can't believe you squatted 70 pounds. That's amazing. And you're like, well, but like there's a guy in my gym that can do more. No, like stop that. Stop it. I'm slapping your hand right now. Stop it.
Smack the hand.
So like find a way to like get complimented, basically, not necessarily even from your friends, but that's super helpful.
Internally compliment. Yeah.
Well, and don't justify those away. Yeah. Sit in those. Invite them to tea.
Part of it is recognizing that when you say shadow side, you don't mean your dark side. This isn't mirror like the mirror universe, right? This isn't like Spock with a beard, right? Your shadow isn't evil Superman. It's not Spock with a beard, right? That's not what your shadow side is. Your shadow side, you got to think about it. It's like if you're like big consciousness tenants were like a building in a city, like a big multi-story, 20-story building in a city, then it's going to cast a shadow. Sometimes it casts a shadow on a park that you love, but the park is still in shadow sometimes during the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Another way that you can look at this is by the one that we said, like, list your positive traits and then the negative ones. Okay, we'll do the opposite. List your negative traits and how those traits are positive, or the positive correspondences between them. Yeah. So essentially in this manner, we're sort of doing what I want to call reverse shadow work, but it's not entirely
it's just absolutely regular shadow work.
But like a large form of shadow work for myself and many, many people I know is allowing yourself to shine.
Yeah.
Why? For me, a lot, because we're continuing with this Julie roasting herself theme in this whole... Guys, guess what, guys?
I'm trying to
no
save
conspiracy theory. It's just me roasting myself to an audience of people that I barely know.
Or listen, I wrote this entire episode and I did all the things, and this whole point is just to roast Julie. Don't look at her face. This is the truth. Get roasted. No, it's not me. I didn't do any research.
Also don't look at my face.
I'm not a doctor.
I was gonna do this like super cute makeup look that like matched with my outfit, and then I got like makeup in my eye, and then my eye swole up, and I was like, what the hell? And I had to like wash it all off. So congratulations. Here's
not as much makeup.
Here's no makeup, Julie. You're welcome. Yeah. Anyway, one of the hardest things that I have had to do is try to figure out why I don't accept compliments. Why is it so difficult for me to receive compliments without going, well, but. And that's a tough one, and I don't have answers for that yet, but I'm working towards finding those answers. Yeah. Part of shadow work for me is recognizing that this is, and Carl Jung talks about this also in a quote that I like don't have in front of me, that is basically like, you're never going to be fully integrated. You just have to continue on that path to try and become fully integrated. I mean, like, unless you're Buddha, unless you're Siddhartha Gautama himself, you're not becoming, you're not going to be, you're not going to find enlightenment just through the use of shadow work, but you will get closer to it.
But you could. It's that you could. And to that extent, I mean, if you're doing shadow work to achieve enlightenment, I think you're genuinely missing. One does not seek enlightenment, one simply achieves it, right? This is that try not do shit, right?
If you tell me to unask the question.
It is so exactly
help me.
Unasking questions. This is the thing. It's not, and just the same. Sometimes you need to figure out why you don't accept compliments. And sometimes you just need to know that you don't accept compliments and then shut the fuck up and accept that compliment. Right? Like, sometimes you don't need to know why. You just need to, when somebody's like, oh, that's a cute dress, That's a fucking stranger, dog. You don't need to explain that you look frumpy in that dress. They don't care or know you. They just thought it was a cute dress and you looked like you needed a compliment, or that they were feeling a particularly happy day and they wanted to share a little bit of joy. Don't poo in their Cheerios, my guy.
Yeah.
Take that compliment, put it in your pocket, go the fuck away.
Maybe they needed to compliment you to feel better about their day. Also,
Yeah,
as far
maybe
as the accepting compliments thing, for me, the best way to learn how to do this, so the best way for me to do shadow work about my resistance to accepting compliments about things is to say, thanks, I made it. Or thanks, I got it at blank, right? This is obviously a fairly specific example that I'm giving you.
Distribute the load of the compliment across several topics, like also constructing a thing, or also a skill.
I like your
storm.
top 2.
Yeah.
You know, that helps you to sort of find a middle ground, because the idea behind shadow work is not to go, that's the shadow thing, immediately I'm able to conquer this. No, it takes steps. So for me, it started with recognizing that I was
just not taking
these compliments, or doing a well butt, right? Yeah. And then consciously trying to avoid the well butt. And that was by saying, thanks, I got it here, or thanks, I like your thing too, or thanks, I made it. Because in my mind, these were ways to lessen the blow of it not actually being as good as they thought it was.
Yeah.
Right? And now I am in a place now where I can proudly say, thank you.
Yeah.
Or thanks, I also made this. And that makes, or thanks, and then have a conversation about why you like it, obviously, if these things make sense for the interaction that you're having, right?
Oh my God, yeah. If this is a checkout and there's 27 people behind you in line, thank you. Shut up and walk away.
Don't share. Don't do a recipe blog about it. Yeah. But like, that is just my own personal snapshot for how I have worked with that shadow part of me, because I feel like I have gotten to a really good place with that.
At being able to take compliments.
Totally, and part of that is because it is difficult for me to say that I am good enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of that asking why thing.
Enough.
Why don't you take compliments? Well, maybe you don't take compliments because you don't think you deserve compliments. Okay, solid start. Why don't you think you deserve compliments? Deeper question, right? So it's a path in a forest of your own mind that kind of nobody else. People can help you down, faux show, but like in the grand scheme of things, we're all sort of alone in our internal forests, and we need to like recognize that also we're the forest. So chill the fuck out, dog. Right? Yeah. It's that like if your building is casting a shadow on the park, the solution is not to demolish the park and move it somewhere else. It's not solving a problem. It's a park. It'll be fine. Maybe just plant some shade plants in there and like, you know, plant a bloody rhododendron as opposed to a sunflower.
Yeah.
Still flowery park. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? So like there's an infinite number of solutions to every problem or whatever. Okay.
We've gone on for a while.
I think we've got this for a while. So our experiences, I think that you've talked about several experiences. Do you have any other shadow work based experiences to share?
Not that I can think of. I've been quite vulnerable in this episode.
Yeah.
Talking about this stuff. So good job, me. You're welcome. That is not a thing that I do easily or often. Fair. So thank you for thank you for listening to that side of things. I really, as far as shadow work goes,
are you I'm doing shadow work all the time, or like I'm setting time aside for shadows. Yeah, I'm putting on the shadow work hat, all shadows.
I think that the thing that is like the main takeaway from my experience for shadow work is find a way that you can do your own shadow work that is at a pace that works for you, that is in a methodology that works for you, in a way that doesn't cause you to be upset. I have tried to work with therapists, many, over time to deal with shadow work type feelings and things, and it has actually made my mental health worse. It wasn't until I realized I was already doing the shadow work and I was doing it in ways that I found helpful, small, incremental ways that worked best for the way that my head canon of my life and the universe worked, that I was able to finally go click. Now I get it. Now I get it. So my main takeaway from the experience is don't just do the thing that everybody is telling you to do. Find the thing that makes it so that it's small, incremental pieces. Think of it like taking your vitamins, right? Like if you had to take vitamins every single day, you're not going to want to take a whole fistful of vitamins. You'd rather take one pill. So take one small pill every day. And you don't have to do shadow work every day, right? But like find the way to make it so that your mental health on a day-to-day level improves through this shadow work interaction.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about the difference between going on a fad diet and making a lifestyle change that benefits you as a person. Yeah.
Find a way to make it enjoyable or at least interesting and sustainable. Totally. That's my main takeaway from that. And that's essentially the things that I've talked about are the ways that I have found the way to make this a lifestyle change for me. And that doesn't mean that this is the end all be all. I'll never incorporate anything. I'll never drop any of these pieces. It just means that that's what I know.
It's just like where you're at right now, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Totally. Well, okay. So shadow work for me is like, so I kind of have like two fairly different approaches to shadow work that I sort of use in simultaneity, right? The first is an extension of my micro meditation practice, which is that like you don't, like in my mind, you don't need to like book 30 minutes to sit down and like put on some bells or some shit and like meditate or whatever, right? Like put on some like, you know, singing bowls or whatever the fuck. I mean, like if that's your fucking vibe, rock and roll, dog. That shit's tight. I love frequencies. I'm very hype on frequencies and frequency adjacent YouTube 3-hour soundtracks, right? But like you don't need to like book meditating. You just need to like recognize everything sort of comes down to observation, right? It's like, don't seek answers. Observe yourself moving through reality, and answers will become apparent with the least amount of work that you put into it, right? This is very much a like, it's not even like build it and they will come, right? It's just like so long as you observe your own participation, you'll achieve that like level of knowledge, right? So it's a lot of it for me. Like the largest proportion of my shadow work is just like an easy answer is like, not a big fan of spiders. Daddy long legs don't count. I love those guys. They're weird and silly. They're like fun clowns. Unlike regular clowns, which are a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, regular clowns. Not
regular clowns, nightmare. Daddy long legs, fun clowns.
Do not recommend.
But it's like I don't like spiders, right? But what I do, because of the effort of micro meditation, because of the infinitesimal amount of work I have to put into consistently observing my body, my surroundings, and the way that I'm thinking, right? I like to sort of like break off a little bit of my consciousness and put that shit in like Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, third person mode, right? And just like watch, like observe myself observing and interacting with reality, right? As a like a micro meditation thing, right? It's like when you're doing the dishes, I'm not stressing about, we got to get all these dishes done. It's just like, it's fucking dishes. When I do dishes, I'm not worried. Do I gotta wash the stuff for a thing? I don't care. Do I gotta water the plants? Like I could stress about watering my garden, which is excessive to say the least. But like, why? It's at some point in time, I recognize that like, that's dumb, and I need to just water the garden and appreciate the fact that I get to like stand outside and water my garden at 10 o'clock in the morning and not have like corporate drama in my life. That's an amazing feat. right? Achieved purely through like the sort of stuff that we do as a standalone business, right? So it's that thing where it's like even packing orders for the Etsy shop, I find vaguely meditative simply because like I'm watching a TV show and I'm just like doing this bing bang boom sort of shit with my hands. And like I don't really have to think too much to be able to pack an order, right? Because I already did the thinking to make sure that there's the right stuff in the order. And then I'm just folding paper and I'm just, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy. I'm gonna like live in the moment, right? Live in the moment is like very much sort of my vibe, right? Live at the forefront, at the front of the wave, right, as it collapses, and then observe yourself living in that place, and like recognize that, like, you know, like the other day the top drawer for my tool cabinet had a crevice spider like shoot out and do crevice spider shit, and like I'm not a huge fan of spiders. I'm for the most part over that, by the by. But like I'm not a huge fan of spiders, and I'm like, crevice spider. But like because of the action of interacting with the way that I like observing the way that I interact with stuff, I'm just like, crevice spider. That guy's gonna be fucking fine. And then I just finished closing the thing and he didn't get anywhere near me, and I grabbed the tools that I needed. And then I just closed the drawer and I don't care. That crevice spider is still there. It's been weeks. He protects my tools from flies. I don't care. Right? So it's like that sort of energy, you know? Like where I'm very much a like observe and then like through the act of true observation, like emotionless, third party, inhuman observation, I can find the things that need to change, be observed, addressed, any of that sort of shadow work, shenanery, just sort of like happens with autonomousness, right? It's sort of like a lot of the like small shadow work, the like daily shadow work, right, is an automatic function in my consciousness. Now, this is not an every time thing. This has not been always I've had this thing. This is only within the last several years, like within the last like 3 years or 5 years, where I've been able to achieve a place of understanding within myself where I realize that like I don't need to like set time aside to like put on the music and like sit in the dark and like hold my hands ever so just or whatever to like meditate, right? I don't need to like I don't need to speak of grand designs to recognize the beauty of the grand design, right? Like I like in like enlightenment is not an achievable act so much as it is a recognition of a state that we all already have but don't want to accept because of the TV screaming nonsense and colors at us and our attention, and the cell phone screaming, you know, nonsense and shit at stealing our attention and all those sort of things. So part of my shadow work is that like if a smaller bite is a more palatable bite, and if meditation can be achieved loosely through regular observation and like sort of like living at the forefront of the waveform, then like so can shadow work, right? A thing that like as I was creating the idea of micro meditation makes it sound like I did something special. I didn't. It's just creating the structure in my mind to accept that what I'm doing is micro meditation. It's technically more accurate. Like as micro meditation became a part of my consciousness more, right, I realized that without work, effort, or thought, I was already doing the shadow work. I was already being like, ugh, this fucking spider mush, or like, ugh, this fucking spider, if I just go do something else, he's gonna go back to wherever the fuck he came from and I'm not gonna worry about it, you know, or whatever. Or like, like I could stress that this fucking bonsai I have a bonsai outside that is 99% dead because it just chooses not to want to live, no matter how much I fucking dote over it. And like that's fine. At some point in time, I just have to accept that, like, whatever. It is what it is, man. Lego rules, right? But because of that action, I've learned to let some of the other bonsai grow and heal better than not. So it's like that sort of a thing, right? So that's most 99% of my shadow work is like an autonomous function of observation achieved through regular micro meditation, right? And then the other 1% is the like is 100% the roast. I'm a huge fan of, like, if you just did a thing, absolutely self-roast yourself. Like, it just viciously self-roast yourself. I am the most internal put-downs, right? But it's not negative internal put-downs. It's not like look at this fat asshole. Like, you know, it's like not Comedy Central early 2000s real asshole roasts. You know what I'm saying? It's the sort of roast where, like, no matter how I feel about a thing, right? Like, if I've been like emotionally triggered or whatever, or like if I've like been put in a place of like emotional or mental or physical stress, I am immediately gonna be like, you could have lifted that better. You know better than that. But not from a place of hate, but from a place of knowledge that, like, I do in fact know that I could have done better than that.
See, for me, that
and
only puts me into like a bad place spiral.
Right. So, but that's part of the act of shadow work, is being able to say, that looks stupid, and then just walk away from it.
Yeah.
And then just whatever about that shit later. But that's also like it's not. I'm not saying like it's advanced, or whatever. But that's also like later shit. For me, that was like later shit. I didn't start with like, look at his fat sack of shit. That's depressing. That's not what I did, right? But through a bunch of work, I've made inroads deep enough into the forest to be able to occasionally be like, fucking rip out that goddamn poison oak, bro. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
That's dumb. You know better. That's dumb. Right? Or whatever. Like, come on. Like, or a good one, a very good one, if you're gonna do the internal roast, right, is when you get emotional about a thing, absolutely roast yourself for being emotional. Not like that emotions are wrong. That's not the point. But like, recognize that, like, you let your emotions control the way you handle the situation, right? And that's it. It's not about like you did it wrong. It's about like, bro, you let your emotions control the situation, and you fucking know that did not make the situation better. Right?
Yeah.
And through, again, it's not about, for me, it's not about the like chewing, the why did I, or any of that kind of stuff. Because that all comes automatically when you go like from my perspective, it's the like you didn't need to get angry with that person on the phone. And it's like, all right, well, but like, I mean, my shit did not show up and these people are trying to gas me that it was like, it was delivered. No fucking wasn't. Right? Like that sort of thing. So it's like, okay, why did I, like, you don't need to get upset. That's a recognition that I got upset unnecessarily. Right? Why did I get upset? Well, that's autonomous. I know why I got upset, because it's the whole reason why I called in the first place, my guy. Like, I don't need to explore this deeper. I paid for a thing and I didn't get a thing. Right? As such, like, what was the overreaction? Did I benefit from the overreaction? Right? Like, I love the cost benefit analysis of emotions, right? Is the like, did I need to get upset? Am I wasting sunlight? My like go-to financial language for like anything that I do is like, am I wasting sunlight doing it? Because everything that we do costs sunlight, right? Because we're just like sun powered, but weirdly. So it's like, did I waste sunlight on this? Whatever the heck, right? And then from that, I look to like, is this just something that I need to accept that like, I'm just being a dick here, and I need to accept that, and then next time not be a dick about this, right? Or like, is this one of those like, okay, well, I just need to escalate this, but recognize that the escalation needs not to contain an unnecessary emotional contrivance or whatever the heck, right? So like, for me, shadow work is like mostly infinitesimally small observations that result in grand shifts over time, right? And then the other part, you know, it's the like paying attention to the weather, and like, you know, or paying attention to like the weather and the ponds and the plants, and then like I can go outside and be like, oh, the fish are telling me it's going to get hot soon, or the weather's going to change, or it's going to get cold, or the plants are saying that the dew point's getting weird, or something like that, right? It's only observation, but I'm coming to conclusions because of the observation. And then I'm able to make changes, moving plants indoors, covering them, feeding the fish more or less, whatever, right? Based on the conclusions I made based on those observations, right? So instead of trying to like seek integration, I have sought an observation of truth in order to allow myself to naturally integrate all of those steps, right? So, you know, it's like that sort of thing. It's from my perspective, again, because I'm remarkably hype about the phrase, it is me unasking the question of shadow work simply because I'm not doing shadow work. Shadow work is a byproduct of paying attention. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for me, that's what shadow work is. That's my experience with shadow work. Right? And like, obviously, we all still have room to grow. I mean, I literally just told you guys how I don't think that I'm an artist, and I literally sell paintings. So whatever's clever, dog. But again, like, I'm aware of that, and with time, I'm going to get the fuck over it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not like beating myself up for not immediately. And this is important about shadow work, because I see people talk about this where they're like, I'm doing shadow work and I don't know if it's helping or whatever. And it's like, well, I mean, this is the Lego rule. If you seek a specific Lego, you will have difficulty finding it in the pile. But as soon as you recognize this is the Lego you need and move on to the next part you're looking for, that first Lego you will find. As you seek for the second or third or fourth Lego. Like, trust that you know that Lego's there, right? And know that this is the Lego that you need to complete your ship or construction or whatever. And then don't hyper fixate on trying to find that Lego, because you're going to have difficulty finding it, right? Instead, it's like a magic eye or a Where's Waldo. Unfocus. And through unfocusing, the picture, the truth is revealed, and you'll find that Lego. You'll see that car or whatever in the magic eye. You'll find that pattern where like, oh, that's where Waldo is. Right? It takes so much more sunlight for you to scan line by line, face by face, person by person, hat by hat, to be like, that's where Waldo is. But if you unfocus, the pattern of Waldo becomes apparent. Right? I follow this subreddit. It's called Where's the Sniper or something like that. And it's people posting pictures where they're just like, ugh, almost stepped on this spider, or almost got bit by this snake, or almost walked into this poison oak or whatever. And it's like, just like a picture. And they're like, do you see it? And you look and you're like, oh, that's where the poison oak is. Or like, one was a dude fishing and he was just like, I like spend all day fishing here, and like didn't even realize that there was like, so like I was in danger. And it's because like underneath from where the photo was, like bottom of the photo, there was whole ass a crocodile there. And he was fishing there, like in his story, he was like, I was fishing there for like an hour. This motherfucker never moved. I didn't even realize it until I like went to take a picture of the like lake that I was fishing at for my friends. And then in the picture was just like, that's scary.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. So sometimes you need to, Lego rule, not seek the thing in order to find it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's like sort of my whole life space with shadow work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a different way of approaching shadow work, I think.
It is, it is different.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, I'm a weird person. What are you going to do? Be weird. Do it yourself. Do your own thing. right? Be whatever the fuck. So yeah, so that's like our experiences with shadow work or whatever. So yeah, this has been shadow work, I would say 101. There's more. Yeah, but wait, there's more. So but not now though, because this has been maybe too much.
This might be our longest episode ever.
Oh no, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think so. We'll find out. Maybe. But yeah, so yeah, that was shadow work, whatever. If you like all of the sources and stuff that we talked about, that's going to be in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on whatever, a podcast. And if you have any questions, like, reach out to us somewhere. You reach out to us on social media. You can leave a comment on the YouTube channel and reach out to us there. You can also just go to the website, nerdjive.com. There's a contact us page where you can like fill out a form and just like, it's just a direct email basically. And so you can just like email us if you don't want to make it like a public question, right? And we can help you there. That's like totally fine or whatever. So like you can always reach out to us there. And if you want more contact with us and more information, we also have a Patreon that has like a Discord and all that kind of stuff. And speaking of Patreon, we would like to thank our patrons.
Yep.
That's all right. Yeah. So we're back. Cameraing. It's warm. So again, third time's the charm. We're going to shout out our patrons, Alan, Miranda, Somewhere, Alexa, Panda, and Alexis. You guys are awesome and keep us improving every time. Thank you very much. If you would like to join those absolute champions of people, you can on our Patreon, as well as Book of Shadows pages and the Discord, and we have a monthly hangout. We have a bunch of stuff. Go check it out. More direct access to us, that sort of thing. Sources in the places where sources are. I'm pretty certain I covered that already. So yeah, this has been shadow work. This was a long one, but this was a fun one. And it's a warm day, and I'm ready for the long nap, as it were. But so, yeah. Either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast, and we will catch you guys next time for more mystical, magical mayhem with the two of us.
Yep.
Stay magical, folks.
Yeah, and don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.